I was making my way back to my car, which is parked over at the beach parking lot.
When Kieran Sidhu left Centennial Beach June 9th, the tide was quickly coming in, so she climbed onto these rocks. Sidhu says she was trying to keep her balance and touch the fence. The homeowner was outraged and confronted her.
She was like, "Don't touch my fence." And I said, "Okay, I won't." So then I didn't. And then I'm still going along and I almost tripped. And she was like, "Ha, that'd be so funny if you fell. But then again, we have enough beached whales around here."
What she says happened next left the Richmond school teacher stunned.
And then she said, "I should spray you with my hose." And I said, "That would be assault." Like, I very clearly said that to her. And she went and got her hose and sprayed me in the face, all over my hair and face, with her hose.
Minutes later, friends confronted the homeowner shooting this video.
Well, she's literally in the middle of crossing and the water's come up and
at the one end when I asked her to get down.
What point was she at when you sprayed her in the head with the hose?
that is assault.
Spray her in the head with the hose and turn the hose on.
Oh.
You wouldn't do that. And I said, I will do that if I have to.
Sure. Wow.
The $3.6 million waterfront home is owned by Delta Police Chief Neil Dubourg and his wife Lorraine. In an emailed statement, Delta Police have confirmed to Global News that an alleged assault is being investigated. That investigation is being done by another agency, Surrey RCMP. They received the file this week.
I filed a complaint with the Delta Police Department just to say that I don't think that their investigation was fair and that somebody working in that in a police department should not be investigating their own boss. It feels like a conflict of interest. And so then it got transferred to the RCMP.
In an emailed statement, Delta Mayor George Harvey, chair of the police board, responded, "A further statement will be made by the Delta Police Board after the RCMP has released the investigation findings. I have recently made statements along with Delta Council and the Delta Police Board absolutely and unequivocally condemning racism in our city."
Do you think she should be charged?
I think she should be. I think as someone who is married to somebody in such a high position in this community, she needs to be held to a higher standard.
I asked her to get off the rocks.
Surrey RCMP aren't saying when their investigation will conclude. Catherine Urquhart, Global News.
That is assault.
Spray her in the head with the hose and turn the hose on.
It was June 25th, 2020, when Global News first reported about an investigation into assault allegations against Lorraine Dubourg, wife of Delta Police Chief Neil Dubourg.
At the one end when I asked her to get down.
She was accused of spraying a woman with a hose outside the Dubourg's beachfront home. Now, a clearer picture is emerging of what went on behind the scenes at Delta Police. It comes 7 months after our Freedom of Information request and after an appeal to the Information and Privacy Commissioner after Delta Police refused to produce documentation. The invoices that have been released reveal how a pricey crisis management firm was used to mitigate damage, and they show who was involved. 2 days after our first story, PR firm Navigator is hired by Delta Police. Day one's bill, $3,000 for phone calls, draft communication statements, and key messages. Day two, $6,300 for phone calls with Deputy Chief Norm Lipinski and Chief Neil Dubourg, and strategy development. Day three, $8,800 for multiple calls with Chief Dubourg and Deputy Chief Lipinski, a review of Dubourg's statement and prep for a police board meeting, calls with police board members and advice for them, also a statement for the mayor. Day four, $3,900 is billed for a police board call, police board monitoring, and a media review. Those first 4 days of public relations, $22,150.
I was really quite shocked when I started reading some of the quotes that we saw on the invoices. Notes to the mayor, statements by the police board.
As Global News continued to pursue answers about procedures and why the force had not brought in an outside agency to investigate, there were more invoices, some related to the Surrey RCMP investigation, Crown Counsel, and the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner. The running total, $36,000. Later, an additional invoice of $7,000. The final cost, $43,666. Delta Mayor George Harvey later said the expenditure did not meet the high standards of taxpayers, and he was seeking spending controls. Yet it's now clear Harvey and other board members were advised by Navigator.
Government has to be more transparent. They can't hide behind FOIs. This is the people's business. This is not two private things that are happening. This has to do with government spending.
Kieran Sidhu, the Delta school teacher who was sprayed by Lorraine Dubourg, is also troubled.
I'm alarmed that they received such detailed training for every aspect that was happening at the time. So not only for their media statements, but also for their RCMP statements. It's very discouraging for regular people to see this as anything but cringeworthy, dishonest, and unethical.
That is assault.
Lorraine Dubourg was not charged and received alternative measures. Delta Police Chief Neil Dubourg maintained he was arm's length from the criminal investigation of his wife, but invoices reveal he was very involved in damage control and spin. Dubourg and many others receiving costly coaching, courtesy of Delta taxpayers. Catherine Urquhart, Global News. Kieran Sidhu arrives at the Surrey RCMP detachment, prepared to give her statement about an alleged assault.
I'm hoping that the RCMP will start conducting a thorough investigation and really making sure that justice is served here.
It's the latest step in what has thrust the Richmond teacher into the news. On June 6th, she was at Centennial Beach when the tide suddenly came in. She says she was walking over these rocks to get back to her car when the homeowner confronted her.
She said, "I should spray you with my hose." And I said, "That would be assault." Like, I very clearly said that to her. And she went and got her hose and sprayed me in the face, all over my hair and face.
That is assault.
Spray her that head with the hose and turn the hose on.
Sidhu's friends challenged the homeowner, Lorraine Dubourg, wife of Delta Police Chief Neil Dubourg.
Come up
She's at the one end when I asked her to get down.
She reported the incident to Delta Police. Sidhu says she was never interviewed in person, and 4 days later, a sergeant from the department told her the case was closed. During an online police board meeting Tuesday morning, Delta's deputy chief defended their investigation.
Accepted practices and policies pertaining to investigative steps were followed.
Chief Neil Dubourg, meanwhile, appeared to distance himself from his wife Lorraine.
On June 7th, 2020, our department received a complaint from a member of the public alleging an assault by my partner. I want to say unreservedly that this matter at hand in no way reflects the values and the commitment to the community of the officers of the Delta Police Department, nor my own values.
Mayor George Harvey, chair of the board, also weighed in, saying the incident occurred on public property.
Are the rocks on public property? Yes, they are.
After Sidhu persisted and filed a formal complaint, Surrey RCMP is now investigating the alleged assault.
Besides the emotional toll it's been taking, it was good to get it out and to finally have somebody listen.
Surrey Mounties won't comment on the criminal investigation. Sidhu also filed a complaint with the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner. It has asked Vancouver Police to carry out an external disciplinary conduct investigation into how the matter was handled by Delta Police. Catherine Urquhart, Global News. For several months, the wife of Delta's police chief has been under investigation. Now the alleged victim says she has been told Lorraine Dubourg will not be charged.
2 charges were recommended. One was for uttering threats, and I'm assuming that's from when she threatened to push me off the rocks, and also for assault, and that would be the hosing incident.
The investigation followed an incident outside Dubourg's home at Centennial Beach in June. Sidhu says the high tide forced her to climb the rocks and touch the fence in front of the house, prompting Dubourg to confront her, then spray her with water. after Sidhu's friends challenged Dubord.
She's literally in the middle of crossing and the water's come up and...
She's at the one end when I asked her to get down. But she did not.
Delta police initially investigated their own chief's wife. Then, following public criticism, Surrey RCMP investigated.
They informed me that they are not going to pursue charges against Lorraine. However, they have recommended alternative measures.
Alternative measures usually involve offenders with no criminal history. The accused given the opportunity to accept responsibility for the crime and make amends.
Generally meet with a probation officer and there's some sort of restitution that's developed. And it's really everything is handled outside of the court setting.
The OPCC is still investigating misconduct allegations related to how the case was handled by the Delta Police Department. Also outstanding, a service and policy complaint sent to the Delta Police Board. It concerns the department's policies and procedures related to real or perceived conflicts of interest.
Her position and her husband's role in the community are important in terms of how she conducts herself.
The BC Prosecution Service has confirmed Dubord faces alternative measures, saying it was guided by the criminal code. Catherine Urquhart, Global News. Late today, Deputy Chief Harj Sidhu put out a statement. In that statement, he fails to say which PR firm was hired. However, he does acknowledge that $42,000 of taxpayer money was spent on crisis communications related to actions by the chief's wife. Also in the statement, it says that the contract was set up by former Deputy Chief Norm Lipinski, who consulted directly with the firm. Lipinski is now Chief of Surrey Police Services. Lois Jackson, a councillor in Delta, told Global News that she wants more answers, and she will be seeking them at next council meeting on Monday. Also, we should mention that an investigation into how this entire matter was handled by Delta Police is still ongoing by the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner.